The void between stars is not empty. It's filled with secrets, echoes of civilizations long gone and ghosts that refuse to stay silent. For Captain Rhea Vance, standing on the observation deck of the Dominion research station Arcturus Prime, the void was a constant reminder of what she'd lost. She was human, one of the last few serving the galactic Dominion after Earth's fall. Her people were a cautionary tale, the species that dared to resist and was shattered for it, scattered across the galaxy like dust. Beside her, Science Officer Thomas Oren, his face a map of worry, swiped through data tablets. For weeks, they'd been tracking anomalies, strange echoes in subspace, gravitational distortions that flickered in and out of existence like phantoms. Still nothing from Outpost Meridian, Thomas muttered, his voice heavy. That makes 7 stations gone dark in 4 cycles. Rhea turned from the endless black, her sharp green eyes locking with his. Dominion Command thinks it's a mass equipment failure. 7 independent systems all failing at once. You don't believe that, he stated. I don't believe in coincidences, she replied, crossing her arms. The silver insignia on her uniform glinted. My people had a saying. When the universe goes quiet, it's not sleeping. It's holding its breath. Far across the galaxy, aboard the flagship Eternal Supremacy, High Commander Vexthor of the Krell Empire was losing his patience. His species had ruled for 8,000 years, apex predators in politicians' robes, their claws just as deadly. Another blackout? Vexthor's triple-jointed fingers drummed on his throne. Unacceptable. Send the 4th Battle Group to investigate. His strategist, Paul, bowed low. My lord, the pattern suggests strategic targeting. Perhaps we should consider organized resistance. Vexthor let out a laugh like grinding metal. Resistance? From whom? We broke the Terrans. We crushed the Valori. We atomized the Singing Worlds. Who is left that would dare? Paul's silence was its own answer. But in a corner of space the Dominion had written off as dead and sterile. Something was stirring. The Nocturne fleet, a school of mechanical sharks, drifted through the dark. Their hulls didn't reflect light. They devoured it. These weren't ships. They were tombs with engines, monuments to extinction that refused to fade away. On the bridge of the Retribution's Echo, Commander Derek Holt watched his tactical displays, his augmented eyes scanning Dominion forces across 12 sectors. He was old, kept alive for 2 centuries by cryosleep, genetic tinkering, and a stubborn refusal to die. He was old enough to remember Earth, old enough to remember the fires. Status report, he said, his voice a rasp like someone who'd screamed until they learned to speak in whispers. 4th Battle Group is deploying to the Meridian sector, Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka responded, her own body a mosaic of flesh and machine, a survivor of the orbital bombardment of Tokyo. Exactly as we predicted, 3 dreadnoughts, full escort. Overconfident as always, Derek allowed a thin, cruel smile. They still think we're just ghosts, space anomalies. Chief Engineer Matthias Oren, half his skull a transparent composite showing the processors wired to his brain, chimed in. The longer they underestimate us, the more of them we take down. Derek walked to the holographic star map. He traced his fingers over the symbols. Red for Dominion strongholds, blue for civilian worlds, and black. So many black markers, representing the purged, the exterminated, the erased. We were colony builders once, Derek said softly. Scientists, artists, dreamers. We reached for the stars with open hands. His augmented hand clenched into a fist. They taught us to reach with weapons instead. Back on Arcturus Prime, alarms screamed to life. Rhea and Thomas sprinted to the command center. The main display showed something impossible. The 4th Battle Group, the pride of the Dominion's Eastern Fleet, was gone. Vanished. 3 dreadnoughts and their entire escort wiped from existence in 14 minutes. Get me any data from their last position, Rhea commanded. Debris, energy signatures, anything. The station's AI compiled the data. The room went silent. There was debris, but the damage patterns were wrong. The energy signatures matched no known weapon. Those hulls weren't blown apart. Thomas whispered, his face pale. They were systematically dismantled, surgically. Rhea leaned in, her enhanced vision zooming in on a piece of wreckage. Burned into the metal was a symbol she hadn't seen since childhood. An emblem banned by the Dominion on pain of death. The old Earth Federation eagle, but corrupted. It was skeletal, its wings tattered, and wrapped around it were words in an ancient Terran script. The Krell station commander, Thexir, demanded, "What does it say?" Rhea's voice was a ghost. "We do not forgive. We do not forget. We do not die." Thexir laughed nervously. "Terran propaganda. Your species was eliminated. This is just some faction using your old symbols to scare us." "Then why are you frightened?" Rhea shot back, her eyes hard. "Sir, we need to evacuate this station now." "Nonsense. This is the most fortified research station in the sector." As if on cue, every light on Arcturus Prime died. The emergency systems failed, and in the sudden, absolute darkness, a face flickered onto every screen. Human, but not. Its eyes glowed with an eerie bioluminescence. Its skin was a patchwork of flesh and metal, and its smile promised a universe of pain. "Hello, Dominion," the face spoke in perfect galactic standard. "You tried to make us extinct. You failed. Now we return the favor." The transmission cut. The lights stayed dead. Then, in the suffocating blackness, Rhea heard a sound that turned her blood to ice, the heavy thud of docking clamps engaging. They were being boarded. And through the station's intercom, human voices began to sing. An old Terran war song, one her grandmother used to hum. A song about warriors who refused to surrender, who fought from the shadows, who became the nightmare that hunts its enemies. The Nocturne fleet had arrived. The reckoning the Dominion never believed possible was here. The dead had learned to fight back, and they were very, very angry. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the darkness between the stars. If you enjoyed this story and want to see what happens next in humanity's quest for vengeance, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss a single update. I'd love to hear your theories in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious. The emergency lights flickered on throughout Arcturus Prime, casting everything in a blood-red glow, as if the station itself was bleeding. I'm Rhea Vance, and as I moved through the corridors, my instincts screamed that my sidearm was just a comforting lie against whatever was coming. Behind me, Thomas Oren, our science officer, clutched his data pad like a holy relic, his breath catching in his throat. 17 breaches in the docking bay, he stammered, his eyes glued to the screen. But there's nothing on thermal or motion, it's like ghosts. I shook my head, my voice grim. They're there, Thomas. They just figured out how to blind our tech. My people were always good at adapting. Over the intercom, a haunting melody started to play. A song that seeped into your bones and chilled you to the core. Station personnel, a chaotic mix of Krell officers and various alien species, scrambled past us, their faces masks of pure panic. Our commander, Thexir, tried to rally the troops over the comms, but even his authoritative voice was cracking with fear. All security teams, converge on Docking Bay 7, engage hostiles with extreme prejudice. I knew that was a death sentence. I grabbed Thomas and yanked him into a dark maintenance alcove. We're not fighting them, I told him. What? But we have to defend the station, he argued, his voice trembling. Against what, Thomas? Think. They wiped out the 4th battle group in 14 minutes, 3 dreadnoughts. This research station won't last 14 seconds. They aren't here to kill everyone. If they were, we'd already be dead. This is a message. Just then, the sound of energy weapons erupted from the lower decks. A brief, violent symphony of chaos followed by screams that were cut off far too quickly. And then, silence. The kind of terrible, final silence that means a fight is already over. Meanwhile, aboard the Retribution's Echo, Commander Derek Holt watched the tactical feed from his boarding teams. His face was a stone mask as he observed the station's security being neutralized with cold, systematic efficiency. The orders were clear. Incapacitate, don't kill. Terror was the real weapon here. Team 3 reports the command center is secure, Yuki Tanaka announced. Minimal resistance. They're more scared than anything. Holt nodded. Good. Have them broadcast our message on all Dominion frequencies. It's time the galaxy remembered what humanity looks like when you push us too far. On the comm screen, Lieutenant Chen Wei's face appeared. A chilling mosaic of synthetic skin and exposed titanium, his eyes glowing with an eerie blue light, a souvenir from the Melbourne massacre. Commander, comms array secured. We also found something interesting. 2 humans in their research division, a Captain Vance and Science Officer Oren. A flicker of surprise crossed Holt's face. Humans? Working for the Dominion? Looks like survivors conscripted after the fall. Want me to bring them in? Holt paused, considering. No, let them go. Give them a shuttle and safe passage. And Chen, he added, make sure they understand. We're not their enemy, unless they choose to be. Back in the alcove, my communicator chirped. I answered, expecting a Dominion officer. Instead, a voice spoke in English, a Terran dialect I hadn't heard in years. Captain Vance, you and Officer Oren, proceed to Docking Bay 12. A shuttle is waiting. You have 10 minutes. My heart hammered in my chest. Who is this? I demanded. Someone who remembers Earth, the voice replied, a ghost from a life I thought was gone forever. Someone who remembers what we were before they tried to erase us. Go now. This isn't your fight. The line went dead. Thomas looked at me, his eyes wide. It's a trap. Maybe, I said, holstering my weapon. But they're right. The Dominion let our world burn. I wear this uniform to survive, but I never, ever stopped being human. We moved through the station, a surreal landscape of paralyzed security officers and terrified researchers. The boarding teams were phantoms, their movements silent and perfectly coordinated. I caught glimpses of them, warriors who looked human but moved with an unnatural grace. They were augmented, enhanced, transformed by grief and rage. Just as promised, a small shuttle waited in Docking Bay 12. Standing beside it was one of them, a tall woman with silver circuitry glowing beneath translucent skin. Her eyes were solid black voids, yet somehow they held a flicker of empathy. Captain Vance, I'm Operative Nina Reeves. I was 15 when they bombed Chicago. Been hunting them ever since. She gestured to the shuttle. This will take you to neutral space, far from what's about to happen. What is about to happen? I had to ask. Nina's smile was chilling. The Dominion thinks they're the apex predator. They're about to learn their prey. We've spent decades preparing, infiltrating their systems, learning their weaknesses. Today was just the opening move. Tomas stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overriding his fear. How many of you are there? Enough, Nina replied, her expression softening for a moment. We aren't monsters despite what they made us become, but we are committed. The Dominion will answer for every world they burned, every species they exterminated, every child that died screaming. Her voice turned to steel. We will be their reckoning. As if on cue, a series of controlled explosions rocked the station, disabling key systems without destroying the structure. The message was clear. We can reach you anywhere. We can strike any time. You cannot stop us. We boarded the shuttle, and as we ascended, I looked out the viewport. Dozens, then hundreds of ships materialized from the void, all bearing a corrupted version of the old Earth Federation symbol. The Dominion hadn't extinguished humanity. They had created an army of shadows. On the bridge of the Eternal Supremacy, High Commander Vexthor watched the transmission from Arcturus Prime. A human face filled the screen, augmented eyes staring right through him. We are the Nocturne. We are what remains when you try to commit genocide and fail. We are patient. We are everywhere. And we are coming for you. The figure leaned closer, his voice a venomous whisper. You took our home. We'll take everything. The transmission ended, replaced by a list of coordinates. Dominion military bases, research hubs, administrative centers. and next to each one, a future timestamp, a precisely scheduled promise of destruction. For the first time in his 800-year life, Vexthor felt true fear. The Dominion had rules for war, codes of honor. These humans, these Nocturne, had none. They were terrorists on a galactic scale. "Mobilize everything," Vexthor roared, his voice shaking with a mix of fury and terror. "Every fleet, every garrison, find them and burn them out." But his strategist Paul spoke quietly. "My lord, that's what they want. They want us reactive, spreading our forces thin. This is asymmetric warfare. They don't need to beat us in open combat. They just need to make us bleed until we collapse." Vexthor spun on him. "Then what do you suggest?" Paul met his gaze. "I suggest," he said carefully, "that we start considering peace negotiations before this becomes an extinction war. For us. Peace with humans, the species they'd tried to erase. The thought was impossible. But as reports of simultaneous surgical strikes flooded in from across Dominion space, a terrifying realization dawned on Vexthor. They hadn't killed humanity. They had forged it into a weapon, and that weapon was now pointed directly at their throat. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the dark future of humanity's revenge, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more epic sci-fi stories. Let me know in the comments what you think will happen next. See you in the next video. In the heart of the Dominion, aboard the colossal warship Eternal Supremacy, an emergency session was in full swing. The conference chamber, usually a symbol of unshakable power, now pulsed with a nervous energy. Holographic maps glowed crimson, each red dot a fresh wound, a testament to an unseen enemy's relentless assault. Entire sectors were painted in blood-red light, marking the sites of attacks that had plagued them for 3 agonizing weeks. High Commander Vexthor, a being whose very presence commanded obedience, stood at the head of the chamber. His usual granite confidence had been chipped away, eroded by the constant, unpredictable strikes of an enemy they called the Nocturne. They were ghosts. Supply convoys vanished into the void. Patrol fleets chased phantoms that flickered out of existence just as weapons locked on. Entire colonies fell silent overnight, their populations left unharmed. But every piece of military hardware, from a simple blaster to a planetary defense cannon, was melted into useless slag. Admiral Krenval, his 4 eyes clouded with exhaustion, broke the tense silence. "They're bleeding us," he reported, his voice raspy. "Not killing us, bleeding us. Every single day we lose ships, we lose supplies, and we lose credibility. Our subject species, the ones we brought under our protection, they're watching. They're starting to see that we're vulnerable." General Thox, a creature of pure aggression, slammed a massive appendage on the council table, making the holographic displays shimmer. "Then we crush them with overwhelming force," he snarled. "Mass deployment, scorched earth tactics. We will make a terrifying example of any system that dares to harbor these vermin." Paul, the strategist, a quiet figure whose mind was the Dominion's sharpest weapon, shook his head slowly. "That is precisely what they want us to do," he countered softly. "They are guerrilla fighters. They thrive when we overextend our forces. Every brutal crackdown we initiate will only create more sympathizers. It will swell their ranks with more recruits for their cause." "Recruits?" Vexthor's voice dripped with contempt. "What recruits? The humans are nearly extinct." "We're nearly extinct," Paul corrected, his tone grim. "But the Nocturne isn't just made up of humans anymore. Our latest intelligence suggests they've been recruiting survivors from the other species we've subjugated. The Valori, the Kelthans. I've even seen reports of Krell separatists joining them. They are building a coalition of the vengeful." A heavy, profound silence fell over the chamber. The implications were staggering. The Dominion had built its empire on the broken backs of countless worlds. Now the ghosts of their past were rising, united under a single human-led banner. Meanwhile, light years away, hidden deep inside a hollowed-out asteroid, a very different meeting was taking place. This was the heart of the nocturne. The room was sparse, functional, bathed in the cool blue glow of emergency lights. Here, Commander Derek Holt met with his inner council. Around the table sat the leaders of the rebellion, warriors, engineers, intelligence operatives, and a new, crucial addition, diplomats. Yuki Tanaka, their chief intelligence analyst, brought up shimmering data streams. "The Dominion is fracturing," she reported, her voice steady and clear. "Their grip is weakening. Their subject species are emboldened by our successes. We are receiving communication requests from 17 different underground resistance movements. They want to coordinate. They want to fight alongside us." Derek Holt, a man more machine than flesh after the war, studied the information. His augmented brain processed tactical variables at blinding speed, but he deliberately slowed down, forcing himself to think with the one thing the Dominion had tried to extinguish: his heart. It was what separated them from their oppressors. They hadn't lost their humanity. They had refined it, forged it into a stronger, more resilient form. "What about civilian casualties?" he asked, his voice low but carrying immense weight. Chen Wei, head of special operations, answered immediately. "Minimal, Commander. We have maintained discipline. Every operation is surgical, focused exclusively on military and political targets. No population centers have been touched. No indiscriminate destruction. We are not them." "Good." Derek's affirmation was firm. "We are not trying to become them. We are trying to stop them. There is a universe of difference between the two." Nina Reeves, their lead diplomat, leaned forward, her expression intense. "Commander, we've intercepted something interesting. The Dominion is considering sending an envoy. They want to talk." A bitter laugh echoed from across the table. It was Matthias Oren, a veteran warrior whose face was a roadmap of loss. "Talk?" he spat. "After 2 centuries? After they turned Earth into a sphere of glass and ash? Now they want to talk?" Derek raised a hand, calling for silence. "They're afraid," he explained. "Fear makes people do things they never thought possible, including perhaps recognizing their enemies as equals." "We're not their equals," a voice growled from the shadows. "We are survivors. They are executioners." "No," Derek said, his voice cutting through the tension. "We are all just people, trying to survive in this universe. They made terrible, monstrous choices, but if we become the same kind of monsters in our victory, then they will have won. They will have finally turned us into the very thing they feared we were." The room was filled with an uncomfortable energy. These were warriors who had nurtured their rage for a lifetime, honing it into a razor-sharp weapon. The idea of letting that rage go felt like disarmament, like a betrayal of the dead. Yuki spoke into the quiet. "What are you suggesting, Commander?" Derek stood, his tall, augmented frame casting a long shadow across the room. "I'm suggesting we remember why we are fighting. We are not fighting for revenge. Revenge is an empty cup. We are fighting so that what happened to Earth never ever happens to anyone else. So that no other child has to watch their world burn. So that no other parent has to die wondering if their sacrifice even mattered." He pulled up an image on the central display. It was a picture of Earth. Not the dead, irradiated rock it was now, but Earth as it had been. A breathtaking jewel of blue oceans, green continents, and swirling white clouds. Beautiful, vibrant, alive. "This is what we lost," he said softly. "But we are still here. We are still breathing. We are still fighting. And now we have a choice. We can destroy the Dominion utterly. We can scatter them to the cosmic winds and make them taste the same extinction they gave to us." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink into every corner of the room. "Or we can be better. We can force them to change, to answer for their crimes, to help us build something better than this endless, brutal cycle of violence." Nina stood, her presence a pillar of support beside him. "Some of our people won't accept peace, Derek. They've lost too much." "I know." Derek's voice was heavy with a pain that everyone in the room shared. "I've lost everything too. Everyone I ever loved is dust. But I keep fighting, because somewhere out there, there's a kid just like I was, looking up at the stars and dreaming of what's possible. I want that kid to inherit a galaxy worth living in, not one built on the foundations of endless war and hatred. The council was silent, each member wrestling with their own demons, their own losses, their own burning desire for vengeance warring against an exhausted hope for something better. Finally, Chen Wei spoke. "If we meet with them," he said decisively, "we do it from a position of absolute strength. We show them that we can end them anytime we choose. And then, we offer our terms." "What terms?" Matthias asked, his skepticism still evident. Derek's eyes hardened, the strategist in him re-emerging. "Accountability. Every Dominion commander who ordered extermination campaigns will stand trial. Every world they burned will receive reparations. Every species they subjugated will be granted full autonomy. And humanity will be recognized as a sovereign people, with full and equal rights under galactic law." "They'll never accept that," Matthias grumbled. "Then we keep bleeding them until they do," Derek stated flatly. "But we give them the choice. That is the difference between us and them. We give people choices." Back on the Eternal Supremacy, High Commander Vex Thor received the Nocturne's reply. It was not what he expected. There were no demands for unconditional surrender, no threats of annihilation. It was a simple message accompanied by a set of coordinates. "You wanted to talk. We're listening. Come alone. Come unarmed. Come ready to answer for what you've done. If you are sincere about peace, prove it. Show the galaxy the courage you claim to possess." Paul read the message over his commander's shoulder. "It's a trap," he whispered. "It has to be." "Maybe," Vex Thor said slowly, his gaze fixed on the crimson map. "Or maybe they are exactly what they claim to be. Survivors who are just as tired of fighting as we are." He thought of his own children, safe for now in the core worlds. How long would that safety last if this war continued? "Will you go?" Paul asked. Vex Thor let out a long breath. "Yes," he said, his voice firm. "I will go. Because if there is even the smallest chance we can end this without mutual destruction, I have to take it, for all our sakes." The meeting coordinates led to a neutral system, a quiet place where neither side held an advantage. As Vex Thor's small shuttle approached, he saw it. The Nocturne fleet. Hundreds of ships, their black hulls seeming to drink the starlight, hanging silently in perfect formation. They could have vaporized him in an instant, instead they just watched, and waited. The shuttle docked. Vex Thor emerged, accompanied only by his strategist Paul. They were met by Nina Reeves and Chen Wei, who wordlessly escorted them through corridors lined with human soldiers. They were augmented, enhanced, transformed by war. But they were unmistakably human. And in their eyes, Vex Thor saw something that terrified him far more than their advanced weapons. He saw restraint. He saw discipline. He saw a people holding back an ocean of justified rage through sheer force of will. They entered the command center. Derek Holt was waiting. The human commander didn't stand. He didn't offer a salute. He simply watched as the architect of Earth's destruction stood before him. "You wanted to talk," Derek said, his voice quiet but echoing with history. "So talk." Vex Thor felt the crushing weight of 2 centuries of conflict pressing down on him. 2 civilizations, one nearly annihilated, both now capable of ending the other. In this single moment, the future of the galaxy balanced on a knife's edge. "I cannot undo what was done to your world," Vex Thor began, his voice laced with a genuine remorse he hadn't felt in centuries. "But I can try to prevent it from ever happening again. To anyone." Derek Holt gestured to an empty chair across from him. "Then sit down," he said. "Let's discuss what justice looks like when neither side can afford revenge." And in that moment, in the silence between 2 enemies, something shifted. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't friendship. But it was the first fragile possibility that maybe, just maybe, the cycle could finally be broken. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more content. We'll see you in the next one.